This morning, Victor Aluyi, Senior Vice President and Head Investments, Sankore Global Investments, joins us on the show this morning to help us unravel this. Thank you so much, Victor Aluyi, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the Naira is said to have been misaligned from its fair value of an extended period. And in 2024 alone, it lost over 36%, plunging to about 1,210 Naira to about 1,915 Naira to a dollar in the parallel market anyway. But some financial gurus said that the Naira just about assumed its actual value as it was previously overvalued. How do you see this postulation?
Yeah, I think the Naira has, suffered quite some over the last almost 9 months, if you will, particularly since, the administration through the central bank decided to, remove all of the bottlenecks that we had in the markets where you had, rates at different kinds of markets, really, and essentially just converge all of those, right? Somewhat float the currency, if you will. So since then, the Naira has, suffered some significant depreciation. But it is important to point out that, that depreciation that we have seen in the Naira has been driven by, a lot of factors that are not necessarily fundamental to our economy. I mean, if you look at the Kenyan shilling, for instance, if you look at the comparable period, it's down just about 8%. If you look at the Ghanaian CD, is down just about 10%. If you look at the Turkish lira, within that period, it's down about 14%. It's important to point out that these countries essentially have the same macroeconomic issues that we're dealing with, price stability challenges, fiscal deficit issues. So, and if you look at the Naira, it's down about 60% within the same period. We did not have an earthquake in Nigeria. Nigeria as a country did not cease to exist. So, it's difficult to really justify the sort of free fall that we have seen in the Naira. Like I said earlier, it's been down really to a number of, factors that are not necessarily fundamental. And only recently, we've started to see moves that we believe would, basically ensure that the Naira regains some value, in the market, really. And the truth of the matter is that before now, the Naira had really been undervalued, and we're seeing things begin to pull to where the value of the currency should actually be.
We'll look at some of the factors. Now, we see that the Naira had been on a free fall since 2019 due to, number one, low forex liquidity, loss of confidence as a store of value, increased Naira speculation and fear. We'll talk about restrictions and exchange rate control, negative real interest rates, and some other factors like that. But then this is where I'd like to have you answer or come in. Why were all these so pronounced, resulting in accelerated decline for the Naira between 2019 and 2024? Because before 2019, we had seen a gradual decline, but it wasn't this monumental. Now, looking at all these factors that I mentioned, why is it that these factors propelled the downward spiral of the currency between 2019 and 2024?
Well, before COVID, really, the Naira was essentially stable, right? We had a bit of a currency challenge, really, between 2016 and 2017. And with some innovations, the INO, the raising of Eurobonds, were able to stem that tide. And really, the Naira remained stable from then up until just right after COVID. And the truth of the matter is that the impact of COVID essentially reverberated the world over. Oil prices collapsed in the aftermath of that. It impacted receipts and all of that. And the posture that the Apex Bank had maintained was one where it basically wanted to protect the value of the Naira. Now, to do that, you obviously need ammunition. You need the resources to do that. Unfortunately, the Apex Bank didn't have that, right? So when the new administration came in, it just thought that it was wise to really allow the true value of the Naira be reflected and save those resources that you've basically been using to, if you will, defend the Naira to almost no avail, channel it into other areas. So the situation became significantly exacerbated really because of the policy posture that the previous administration at the helm of the central bank had taken. So that really aggravated the situation. And that's why we're where we are today. And a lot of the moves that we're seeing today seem to be very, very strong because a lot of things that were meant to have happened before now, in terms of a policy move, didn't quite happen.
Okay, so let's now look at the policy posture of the Apex Bank under the current administration through the Monetary Policy Committee. Now, according to what we know, ever since the MPC meeting last month, and coupled with other drastic measures like going after BDCs and Binance, we discovered that the Naira gained appreciated by over 18% to its current level of about 1,610 naira to a dollar. But then some people think the approach of government was too harsh and even wrong, including the MPC increasing interest rates by about 400 basis points to 22.75% from 18.75%. So you've talked about the policy trajectory of the previous administration, and we now begin to scrutinize how this current administration has driven its own policy to rein in the depreciation of the value of the Naira. What do you think about their policy stance? Do you think it was too harsh also?
No, it wasn't too harsh. It was the right thing to do. The truth of the matter is that when you have debilitating economic situations, particularly if you're dealing with price stability issues, you really don't have a choice as an emerging market. You have to make your interest rate attractive. You have to keep your interest rates at least positive in real terms, right? We've had inflation that's almost 30% for a while, and you've had our benchmark rates less than 20. You've had rates on, government securities at about 15 thereabouts. You were essentially carrying negative real interest rates on those instruments. Those were not attractive. You cannot get investors to be attracted to those sort of funds. You also cannot even get the much needed foreign flows to come in and stem the tide of the currency challenge or the price stability issue that we're dealing with. All of the countries that I've mentioned earlier have had to hike their interest rates quite significantly. I mean, Turkey has interest rates at over 40%. Ghana has had interest rates very, very high as well. So if you're dealing with price stability issues, the move to make is to increase interest rates and make your interest rates very positive in terms of a real stance. Now, there's obviously the complaint around what it does to the real economy. The truth of the matter is that the economy and even businesses cannot grow when you are grappling with significant price challenge issues, right? Businesses were already suffering anyway with all of the FX issues, with all of the inflation. So the point is this: let that price stability challenge be taken care of, and then we can focus on growth. Really, in the absence of price stability, you really cannot. That is the point.
So how well are we going to attain that stability? Because we see that the Naira, since the different measures have been put forward by the Apex Bank, it has not gone below 1,610 Naira. And it is said that the Apex Bank is finally at its wit's end, speculating that the currency might begin to have another round of depreciation. I don't know how true that is. Now, are there measures by which we can sustain the momentum as of now? What do you think can actually be done to stop the constant hemorrhaging of the Naira?
Well, I think that the Apex Bank is on the right track, really, right? It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to happen in one fell swoop, right? With the policies that we've seen, you're not going to see a very drastic decline or a drastic appreciation, in the Naira. It's going to take some time. There is a cadence to these things. There's another MPC meeting coming up this month. I believe that the committee, that's the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, will stay the course to ensure that, this price stability issue really is taken care of. I mean, you need to recall that over the last 9 months, if you will, nothing have been done to address this issue, right? So all of the moves that we're seeing are essentially moves to kind of front load things that should have been done before now to ensure that we stay on the right track and on the right trajectory. And I believe very much so that the Apex Bank is doing the right thing. This is a necessary thing that needs to be done to try and tame that price stability issue that we has basically, been a debilitating problem for the economy over the last 1 year thereabout.
Okay, let's quickly look at some of the solutions that have been proffered by economists. Now, they have pointed out that there's a need for productivity improvement. They've talked about the need for transparent FX market, consistent macroeconomic policies, and foreign exchange interventions. How well can all these be processed to help the Naira gain value?
The truth of the matter is that in dealing with these price stability issues, there is the monetary side of it, there is the fiscal side of it. Now, the fiscal side, it's going to take some time, right? Talking about, increasing productivity, we need to build the infrastructure. We don't have that. We need to build roads. There's a lot of things that need to be done. That's going to take quite a while to do. Whilst we're still grappling with how that gets done, monetary policy can step in and assuage, all of the issues that we're facing. Whilst fiscal policy, goes to work, fiscal policy certainly will take some time. That is the truth of, the matter. Whilst we wait for fiscal policy to truly kick in and, take its course, monetary policy would have to do what it needs to do. And like I said earlier, from a monetary policy standpoint, you sort of have to tighten interest rates to rein in inflation and also stabilize the FX situation that we've been dealing with. That's the move to make from a monetary policy standpoint. On the fiscal side, a lot needs to be done. It's a whole coordination throughout the economy to ensure that there's better security, to ensure that there's better infrastructure, and all of these things. Really, these are the things that will put us on the right track, I believe, sustainably.
Okay, so whether or not we go, we approach it via monetary policies or fiscal policies, there seems to be a bit of confusion, and this is it. Now, the IMF projected that the Naira's value would end in 2024 at about 2,081 Naira to a dollar. That's about 35% depreciation. Now, the EIU insisted or said that they are projecting about 2,000 Naira to a dollar. Now, the Nigerian government, in its 2024 budget assumption, sets the exchange rate at about 800 Naira to a dollar. Excuse me. While the financial derivatives company believes that the exchange rate of the Naira will stabilize at about 1,580 Naira to a dollar in 2024. So when we look at all these different postulations and stands, what do you think the projection should be in terms of its true state? Because if we have policy directions, we have measures that we're trying to put in place to address all these issues, but then we cannot have a concrete figure in terms of projection. At the end of the day, the results might be erroneous. So which do you think is true in terms of realistic projection?
Like you said, these are postulations. It really is anybody's guess. You can't say because the EIU has said something that is at variance with what the central bank is saying, or because they have said something that is at variance with what the IMF is saying, that there's confusion there. That's really not a confusion. There's no confusion there. You would agree with me that if you look at economic variables, typically institutions always have their own marks, their own postulations as to where they believe things would basically set at. So I don't think that's confusing in any way, shape, or even form. At the end of the day, I believe that with the policy moves that we have seen so far, and the imports that the Apex Bank will continue on this trajectory, I think that the Naira will continue to appreciate from here on out. Really, where it settles really is anybody's guess. It's very difficult for you to come out and say, oh, this is where we think and believe the Naira should stay or settle. That's very tough. But I think that, with the policy moves that we have seen, if the central bank stays the course, maintains the trajectory, I think that we'll see the Naira continue to appreciate from here on out.
Okay, Victor Aluyi, Senior Vice President and Head Investments, Sankore Global Investments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Our next talk will be about Bitcoin that has hit above the $72,000 threshold. What are the factors driving this growth? We'll find out in a bit.